Good morning, Year 2, and welcome to our writing lesson this week. It's all going to be about writing character descriptions, and the person we're focusing on this week is Grandma Kranky. She doesn't sound very nice, does she? Let's see how our lesson's going to be broken down today. Session 1. How do brilliant writers identify statements and commands? We're going to have a warm-up by reading our new comment section read words. We're going to learn what statements and commands are, or remind yourself as we have done this before. We're going to read the beginning of George's Marvellous Medicine, and then we're going to complete some activities based on statements and commands. I can't wait. Let's see if you're ready then. Have you got a pencil, some paper, and is your brain ready to go? If you need to get any of those things, put me on pause now. Let's have a go at my turn, your turn first, reading our new set of read words. Any, many, children, steak, break, path, bath, half, hour, again, most, sure, whole. Well done, everybody. Super practicing. Would you like to run through those again on your own? Let's whiz back to the start and have a go. Off you go on your own. Fantastic. Well done. Let's start today's lesson. How do brilliant writers identify statements and commands? So today we'll be looking at what statements and commands are. So what is a statement? Now, a statement is anything that's written down as a sentence. It can have a full stop or an exclamation mark at the end, and it tells you about something, almost like a fact. The cat ran away down the street. That's a statement. I wonder if you can think of a statement for this picture. George is mixing the potion. The bottles are on the side. Can you think of your own statement to say about this? Well done, everybody. Good stuff. So if your sentence is a statement, it must tell you something. It usually ends in a full stop, but can also end in an exclamation mark, just like we said. Okay. So now we need to look how a statement is different to a command. A command is something that tells you to do something. For example, fetch me my cat. One way of learning commands is to play the game Simon Says. Are you ready to play? Let's start. Simon says, jump up and down. Simon says, put your finger on your nose. Simon says, tweak your ears. Pinch your cheeks. Did I catch you out? I wonder if I did. Let's play again. Simon says, ruffle your hair. Simon says, flap your wings. Simon says, twist your tummy. Simon says, stick out your tongue. And fold your arms. Did I catch you out? So all of those things in Simon Says are commands because it's asking you or telling you to do something. If you would like to play a little bit more of Simon Says, you could ask someone at home to play with you. So today we are going to read the start of George's Marvellous Medicine. You may have read this book before or heard it before. It is a super one. We're only going to be reading chapter 1 because we're going to focus on that lady at the bottom of the screen, Grandma Kranky. Oh, I don't like the look of her, do you? Look at that long neck. George looks a bit scared, doesn't he? Let's find out what happens. If you want to put me on pause and read the story yourself, that's brilliant. If you'd rather listen or follow along with me, that's fine too. Chapter 1, Grandma. I'm going shopping in the village, George's mother said to George on Saturday morning. So be a good boy and don't get up to mischief. This was a silly thing to say to a small boy at any time. It immediately made him wonder what sort of mischief he might get up to. And don't forget to give Grandma her medicine at 11 o'clock, the mother said. Then she went, closing the back door behind her. Grandma, who was dozing in her chair by the window, opened one wicked little eye and said, Now you heard what your mother said, George. Don't forget my medicine. No, Grandma, George said. And just try to behave yourself for once while she's away. Yes, Grandma, George said. George was bored to tears. He didn't have a brother or a sister. His father was a farmer, and the farm they lived on was miles away from anywhere, so there were never any children to play with. He was tired of staring at pigs and hens and cows and sheep. He was especially tired of having to live in the same house as that grisly old grunion of a grandma. That's a good word, isn't it? Looking after her all by himself was hardly the most exciting way to spend a Saturday morning. You can make me a nice cup of tea for a start, Grandma said to George. That'll keep you out of mischief for a few minutes. Yes, Grandma, George said. George couldn't help disliking Grandma. She was a selfish, grumpy old woman. She had pale brown teeth and a small puckered-up mouth like a dog's bottom. How much sugar in your tea today, Grandma? George asked her. 1 spoon, as she said, and no milk. Most grandmothers are lovely, kind, helpful old ladies, but not this one. She spent all day and every day sitting in her chair by the window, and she was always complaining, grousing, grouching, grumbling, griping about something or other. Never once, even on her best days, had she smiled at George and said, Well, how are you this morning, George? Or, why don't you and I have a game of snakes and ladders? Or, how was school today? She didn't seem to care about other people, only herself. She was a miserable old grouch. George went into the kitchen and made Grandma a cup of tea with a tea bag. He put 1 spoon of sugar in it and no milk. He stirred the sugar well and carried the cup into the living room. Grandma sipped the tea. Ugh, it's not sweet enough, she said. Put more sugar in. George took the cup back to the kitchen and added another spoonful of sugar. He stirred it again and carried it carefully into Grandma. Did you spot the command in that sentence? Put more sugar in. Well done. Where's the saucer? She said. I won't have a cup without a saucer. George fetched her a saucer. And what about a teaspoon, if you please? I've stirred it for you, Grandma. I stirred it well. I'll stir my own tea, thank you very much, she said. Fetch me a teaspoon. What was that? You're right, it's a command. George fetched her a teaspoon. When George's mother or father were home, Grandma never ordered George about like this. It was only when she had him on her own that she began treating him badly. "You know what's the matter with you?" the old woman said, staring at George over the rim of the teacup with those bright, wicked little eyes. "You're growing too fast. Boys who grow too fast become stupid and lazy." "Oh, but I can't help it if I'm growing fast, Grandma," George said. "Of course you can," she snapped. "Growing's a nasty, childish habit." "But we have to grow, Grandma. If we didn't grow, we'd never be grown-ups." "Rubbish, boy, rubbish," she said. "Look at me. Am I growing? Certainly not." "But you did once, Grandma." "Only very little," the old woman answered. "I gave up growing when I was extremely small, along with the other nasty childish habits like laziness and disobedience and greed and sloppiness and untidiness and stupidity. You haven't given up on these things, have you?" Oh, poor George. "I'm still only a little boy, Grandma." "You're 8 years old," she snorted. "That's old enough to know better. If you don't stop growing soon, it'll be too late." "Too late for what, Grandma?" "It's ridiculous," she went on. "You're nearly as tall as me already." George took a look at Grandma. She certainly was a very tiny person. Her legs were so short she had to have a footstool to put her feet on, and her head only came halfway up the back of the armchair. "Daddy says it's fine for a man to be tall," George said. "Don't listen to your daddy," Grandma said. "Listen to me." "But how do I stop myself growing?" George asked her. "Eat less chocolate," Grandma said. "Does chocolate make you grow?" "It makes you grow the wrong way," she snapped. "Up instead of down." Never heard of that, have you? Grandma sipped some tea, but never took her eyes from the little boy who stood before her. "Never grow up," she said. "Always down." "Yes, Grandma." "And stop eating chocolate. Eat cabbage instead." "Cabbage? Oh no, I don't like cabbage," George said. "It's not what you like or what you don't like," Grandma snapped. "It's what's good for you that counts. From now on, you must eat cabbage 3 times a day, mountains of cabbage, and if it's got caterpillars in it, so much the better." "Ugh!" George said. "Caterpillars give you brains," the old woman said. "Mummy washes them down the sink," George said. "Mummy's as stupid as you are," Grandma said. "Cabbage doesn't taste of anything without a few boiled caterpillars in it. Slugs too." "Oh, not slugs," George cried out. "I couldn't eat slugs." "Whenever I see a light slug on a piece of lettuce," Grandma said, "I gobble it up quick before it crawls away. Delicious." She squeezed her lips together tight, so that her mouth became a tiny wrinkled hole. "Delicious," she said again. "Worms and slugs and beetle bugs. You don't know what's good for you." That's the end of chapter 1. Didn't we learn a lot about Grandma there? Now, whilst we were reading it, we identified lots of commands, and there were also lots of statements there. Hopefully you spotted them too. For our One Chili challenge, we're going to start off by reading these sentences I have on the board, and you're going to decide if they are statements or commands. I'm going to read you the first one. Thumbs up for statements, thumbs down for commands. Stop eating chocolate, eat cabbage instead. So I'm thinking, is that telling me to do something? Stop eating chocolate, eat cabbage instead. It is. So it's, well done everybody. It's thumbs down. It's a command. We're being bossed around. Next one from the book. Caterpillars give you brains. Thumbs up for statements, down for commands. Is that telling us to do something? No. It's a statement. Well done if you put your thumbs up. Fetch me a teaspoon. Remember, statement, command. What one are you going for? It's a command. Thumbs down. It's bossing us around. It's telling us to go and get a teaspoon. Well done. George took a good look at Grandma. Statement or command? Your choice. You show me. Well done. It's a statement. It isn't telling us to do anything. Well done. For our 2 chili challenge, we have got a series of illustrations from the book now. What I would like you to do is I write a statement or command for each one. I'll tell you which as we go through the illustration. So here we have our first one. We've got Grandma with a cup of tea and she's leaning over towards poor George. Can you see there's a speech bubble there? What I would like you to do is think of what command Grandma Kranky could be saying. Write it down in your book. You could even draw the picture if you like. So remember, a command is when someone is telling you to do something. What might she be telling George to do? It's most likely going to start with that bossy verb. Put me on pause now so you can write your own command. Well done. I wonder which command you had. Maybe it was fetch me a teaspoon. Maybe it was get me some more sugar. Maybe it was go away, George. As long as it started with that bossy verb and told someone what to do, you will have got the correct command. Let's look at the next picture now. So we've got George walking towards Grandma. Look at her puckered up mouth. It's a good illustration, isn't it? I would like you to write a statement to go with this illustration. So remember, a statement will just tell us something about this picture. For example, Grandma was sat uncomfortably in the chair. It will have its capital letter at the start, full stop at the end. Or you could have George was walking towards Grandma. Can you put me on pause now and write a statement to go with this illustration? Next one. It's the same picture, but this time I would like you to write a command for Grandma Kranky for what she would be saying. Again, if you want to draw the picture or add it onto a picture you've already drawn, that's fine. So start with your bossy verb. It's going to be telling someone to do something. Wonder what Grandma might be telling George to do. I think I would have, take it away, George. Or she might say, bring it here, George, if she really wants her medicine. Put me on pause now, and you can write your own command for the speech bubble. Our final one now. I would like you to write a statement for George. I wonder what George could be saying. So in his hand, you can see he's got a bottle of medicine and a teaspoon. What might George be saying? I'm going to give this to Grandma, maybe. Put me on pause now and write a statement to accompany this illustration. Well done, everybody. It's time for our free chili challenge now. I'd like you to go back to the story of George's marvellous medicine and put the video on pause. I'd like you to see how many commands you can find and list them in your book. Also, can you see any other sentence types? So underneath here, you'll see I've given you a title, my list of commands, and I've written the first one for you, fetch me a teaspoon. There are some more to be found in the text. So go back to where I was reading it, put the screen on pause and scan through to see if you can find any more commands. I wonder if you can find any questions or Maybe a couple of examples of statements. Are there any exclamation sentences in there? I wonder. Well done, everybody. A super first lesson looking at statements and commands today. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at possessive apostrophes. I can't wait to see you then. Bye, everybody.